Austin with Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. I'm here with my co-host Carla Lenk of SCORE with another episode of Community Business Matters. This month we have as our special guest Ellen Roeseler, who's the Executive Director of our neighbor across the hall here at Wisconsin Rapids Community Theater. And we're going to be talking today about the challenges and the rewards of operating a nonprofit organization. And so, Carla, would you like to lead off with your questions?
Well, I first want to make just one comment, and that is a nonprofit is the same as a for-profit business. It's all about the budget, it's all about marketing, it's all about all the things that a for-profit business does. And you have a board that you have to pay attention to, you have staff that you have to pay attention to, and you have to produce a product at the end, which is in this case plays. So with that, we'll go ahead, and I would like to ask you, do you have a business plan?
You know, our business plan is a little bit different, I think, in terms of like a for-profit organization, in that it has to be continually adapting to changes in the environment. A nonprofit, as well as a for-profit, is always subject to our context of what's going on around us and the changes that happen, and we have to have alternate sources of income. So all of that has to be fit into a business plan too.
Okay. All right, and you have a marketing plan as well?
Oh, definitely. And that's part of my job, is to put together a marketing plan. And that is also responsive. In fact, in our organization, in the last couple of years, we've developed a very specific marketing plan to deal with trying to increase our audience size. Mm-hmm. And to that end, we have also applied and received a grant from Encourage to help us with trying to build audience by using different, I should say more enhanced marketing techniques than we have been able to afford in the past. Maybe a sideline, but in this day and age, it's more expensive and more difficult to reach people because everyone is so specialized about what they choose to see, whether it's on social media or on visual television or streaming off their computers. People are so specific about what they will consume as far as marketing material that it's really hard to reach everybody.
The meat is sliced very thin these days, audience-wise.
Yeah.
And I should have mentioned this at the very beginning, that Wisconsin Rapids Community Theater is an institution in this community.
Yes.
It has been here for
this is our 43rd season. We actually, WRCT and the Arts Council were formed within 6 months of each other. We were first, but 6 months, who's counting? So we've both been here for a long time, and that's a long time for any business to be in existence. I think the average for small businesses is less than 10 years, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And to be around in the community for that amount of time means that we do have roots here, and we do have support of a core group of people and businesses that help us year after year, maintain that. So we're very fortunate in this community to have that. But I guess that is something else that I thought about, and that is that when you're involved in a nonprofit, you have to have that continual regeneration of excitement for your organization. The people who form it initially have this wonderful passion for the group, and when they leave or they go on to something else, you have to constantly regenerate that enthusiasm and that engagement of people for what it is that you're doing. And that becomes a big challenge in something that is so established that the people like me who've been around forever, kind of tend to take for granted that everybody knows, or that everybody knows what our principles are and what we believe in and how we want to do things, but you can't. You have to constantly recruit and regenerate that.
Well, your demographics are continually changing.
Yes.
What happens in the business culture flows out. And if jobs are lost in the community, some things come in, but many go out.
Yeah.
So it's continually changing.
Is there anything else that makes this a specific area of expertise is required to handle it?
I would say yes. We're a very small nonprofit, and community theaters in general have a reputation of always living on a shoestring. You know, we're running around the community and can we borrow your sofa? Can we use that dress you have, and we are, in a sense, we do live up to that image of being out there and having to scrape together things in the thirst of putting on a good show. So we have a little bit of that, and we like to collaborate as much as we can with other theater groups and help each other to, find some of those resources and things. But beyond that, to have a successful group like this requires, I think, a little bit of a jack of all trades. And I think many nonprofit small businesses have the same thing. When I worked at the paper mill, I had one job to do, and I loved it, but it was very specialized. When I took over this position, I learned very quickly that I had to have a smattering of everything, from personnel to, to purchasing to, I had to do everything from cleaning toilets to writing grants to all of a sudden researching legal aspects of something to coaching a director on, how to work with their actors. So I had to have some theater knowledge. I had to figure out how to run the lights. I had to pretty much have a little knowledge of everything, which can be an extremely rewarding thing for you as an individual.
But also very stressful.
Because I would get calls at 8 o'clock at night when I'm sitting at home in my pajamas and have somebody say,
the lights won't go on.
the lights won't go on. What am I supposed to do? And I have to either visually go through and say, well, did you do this, this, and this, or go down and
Pardon my
drive down.
pajamas, I'm just
Figure out how to help them. Yeah. So when you work for a nonprofit, it's not for the money. Because they don't have it. It's for the passion. And because you have a passion, there's this thing that kicks in that you have to solve all the problems yourself. And it can be a real problem for you because you will not be there forever. And you have to find other people who will take on that torch with you and do that. And sometimes that's the hardest part is realizing that you can't do it all yourself. You have to have help or you won't continue to exist as an organization.
How is it divided as far as paid staff versus help from the board or other people that would come in?
Right now, we have, I'm full-time staff, and I have a part-time 20-hour-a-week administrator. And we also had a part-time production manager. That's changing. I and my assistant are retiring at the end of October, and what we did then was it was a wonderful opportunity to take a look at what we really needed and what we had been hearing over the last 10 years since we moved into this facility. And so what we've done now is taken the one full-time and 2 part-time jobs and kind of reorganized all of the tasks and made 2 full-time jobs. One of the nice things about my organization is that the board has allowed us to take some risks and try some things, and if they don't work, we try something else. The board then stays involved. The board will obviously be supervising those employees because they report to the board. Right now, the part-time people report to me, and I report to the board, but they will both be on an equal level reporting to them. And so they remain very supportive we redid all the job descriptions. The board was very involved in doing that and setting the expectations for these employees. And so now we go into what for us will be a next phase.
Okay.
Yes.
Will you remain as sort of a consultant for a time?
I will be a resource, yes.
A resource.
But I always say there's a reason why you're not allowed back in the door for a while, because you need to turn that over to somebody else, and you need them to establish their authority within the organization without people. People always say to me, well, now you can be in place. I'm like, well, maybe down the line, but not right now, because right now when I walk in the door, people perceive me as an employee, and I want the new employees to, have that authority.
So many people, they're so, I think, caught in the past. They still think that you're at the library.
Yeah, we haven't been there for 10 years.
I know. So they need to know. And then they think that this is going to be eradicated, this wing.
Yes.
Because of the mall and the YMCA
Right.
and Boys and Girls Club. So coming in, they have to realize that this all continues. The daycare center for seniors here,
Yes.
the Lowell Center, the studio here, and the community theater.
We're working on reorganizing our space a little bit because if you know where our office is, it's next to what was the old pet shop in the mall. And we had a lot of people access us through the mall. So it's hard to find us now. We're still there, we're still in the same place.
But the access is through.
But the access is through, you have to walk all the way down Centralia and around, or during our office hours, we open the Johnson Street doors, which are the ones that are, located where the drive-up bank is for.
Okay, right.
Is that U.S. Bank?
Yeah.
US
yeah,
Bank.
right.
Yeah, the drive-up. And you can park along there and come into our office. But the current plans for the Y include putting, the VA will be moving next to us. And so
Where the
they
pet
will
store was?
take where the pet store was, but then they will also take all that empty space in front of our office because they're expanding. So getting to us will be really difficult.
Yeah.
And we've been working with both the Y and the city to kind of move our office space, at least, so that we're more accessible, that we have a storefront.
The fact that you mentioned your imminent departure as the executive director after a successful run in your position. No, seriously. Leads to, is a perfect segue to something that you and Carla had spoken about before we went on air. And perhaps, Carla, you'd like to address that issue about success.
Well, the leadership of a nonprofit is basically someone who may have started it with a passion. I've had a lot of people come in and they say, well, I want to do this. You have to know how to do grants. You have to go through that morass of companies and foundations and other people that do have dollars in order to give for the passion that you have. So how to figure that out is very difficult. And then how to write a grant. It behooves someone to actually go and take some lessons on how to write a grant. I'm sure you've
Definitely, yes. And again, I have to thank Encourage Foundation, because they had not only board classes that we were able to attend, but also I went to Milwaukee and were sponsored through Encourage to attend a multiple day grant writing class, which was wonderful, very helpful.
Was that at Marquette?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
That's 4 years ago.
they have the biggest grant library in the state. And there are some other areas, like Encourage does have it, and I think UW Stevens Point has the disc, which is extremely expensive.
Yes.
But you can go in and ask if you can use it, and trying to determine by putting keywords in, and that'll bring up some of the foundations and different areas that would have that.
And as long as we're on this topic of grant writing, it really depends what you do and what your reach is as to what grant money is available to you. I found out I had spent a lot of time researching all of the grants in the country that would be available to my organization, and unfortunately found out that we're really just eligible for local and state grants, not even regional, because we're not, we don't have, for example, professional theater or regional theater like American Players Theater out of Spring Green, which pays their actors, and they're a semi-professional organization. They become eligible for a whole different tier of grants than what we do. But finding that out, takes a while, and it's something that you have to do. But anything you do in the nonprofit environment is so dependent on relationships that you have within the community with other nonprofits and with other communities of your people that do the same thing that you do. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that the sponsorship that we as a nonprofit get from for-profit business is, is extremely helpful to us.
Oh, yeah.
When they sponsor or advertise or whatever, they help us keep going and help us exist. But getting back to grants for a second, generally, what I have found is that you write a grant for a certain project.
Right.
Which is wonderful if you have projects that you need to fund. What you can't get grant money for is what we so desperately need in nonprofits, and that's our operating expenses, with one exception. The state of Wisconsin has a grant program for the arts through the Wisconsin Arts Board that does fund operational expenses.
Is that still going on?
It is still going on at a greatly reduced level, and because of the lack of budget dollars. And we have a phenomenal relationship with the Wisconsin Arts Board, who's been so supportive of what we do. I've gone down to meet with them. They've come up here for different events and classes and that they've conducted, and they're just really great and supportive, and we're very glad to have them. And we hope that they continue, and that our legislators continue to understand the value of that organization. So there, I put in the plug for the Wisconsin Arts Board.
And quite right, and well, you should. And in fact, I was remiss in not, and throughout this entire conversation, in not having you tell our audience all the different programs and presentations that are provided to the community through the Wisconsin Rapids Community Theater. I'm
happy to. Well, I'm happy that you asked. Wisconsin Rapids Community Theater really, at this time, has something for everybody. For 30 years, we performed in the library, and we had what we called our main season productions. And again, that was available to everyone in the community. But since we've been able to move into our own facility, we've been able to expand some of that programming in response to what we were hearing. Our seniors, for example, who don't really want to memorize anymore. That's very stressful once you get to be a certain age. I'm there. It's very hard to think about the worst stress you can have is am I going to forget my lines? So Joanne Joseph with our organization researched. There are a lot of senior theater readers theater groups throughout the country, and she researched and went to some workshops and started up our Silver Foxes, which do they perform twice in the theater throughout the year during the day, so it's available for people who are home during the day to come and see. And they also go out in the community and perform when they're invited. And they have a great time.
I've seen them in action. They're delightful.
I used to say in the beginning when they were first starting to meet that I had to literally get up and close my office door when they had a meeting because they were laughing so hard I couldn't concentrate on what I was doing. But they're a fun group. And then we've heard a lot of comments in the community about youth drama programs being cut or cut down in the school system, and a lot of kids have a desire to do this. So we expanded our youth program, and instead of one show in the summer, we have 2 shows in the summer. We have a youth drama group that continues throughout the school year for kids who are interested in that to get together and explore whatever they want in drama. And we initiated a haunted house, which is something I've always wanted to do, and that's going into our 6th year now. We'll come up at the end of October, and is primarily has turned into a youth project, which I'm very happy about. I wanted it to be taken over by the active kids we have in our group. And what we find is that kids who are maybe not interested in doing a play are interested in becoming a character in the haunted house. So we get a different group of kids to come in for that. Since we moved here, expanded our main stage season to include 4 performances, or 4 shows instead of 3 shows. We slipped in the holiday show, which comes in December. And we're also it's part of our strategy to involve more youth in our main stage productions, because we feel that what community theater does best is to have a multi-generational cast. And when you have a show that has a perfect example is It's a Wonderful Life, which is coming up for this holiday show. There's cast members probably aged 6 to 80 in there. And when you're doing it in a high school, or you're doing it in a college, or you can't have that multi-generational casting. Community theater can do that really well, and so we're trying to bring in more of that to showcase. We have a lot of interest from youth in the community.
That's
a lot.
Really good to hear.
And so we're trying to expand our main stage programming to include more youth in it as well. So we do that. We have an annual fundraising event, which we just completed this year. It's a themed event. This year was a celebrity auction. And we also have our theaters available for rental, and it's available to the whole community. We also have some costumes, props, furniture, things that people will ask us if they can rent, and we say, no, you can come and borrow it.
Oh.
We don't charge for that. People have donated those things to us. We feel that it's neighborly to donate whenever they want to use. So if people want to borrow things from us, we have had them borrow everything from, I need to find a costume for whatever, to I've had a couple of brides who have used wedding dresses.
Seriously?
Yeah, and so we're more than happy to do that and, give back. So we are constantly looking for volunteers, not only to act and direct and stage manage and all of that, but also to work on crews, to get involved in any way that they want. Getting as many people as you can involved in sharing that vision and that passion is what makes you successful. If you can't do that, one person alone, it's very difficult. The fire will burn and then burn out once you've completed.
That's true.
Volunteer
Let's
and-
talk for 1 minute about the roster for this next year.
Okay. This coming season, we have a wonderful, we call it our main stage productions, and those are performances that run over 6 performances. We have 5 in the evening and 1 matinee performance on a Sunday. And they generally run like the school year. So our first show is in October, actually late September, starts this September 28th and runs through October 7th, and that's always a bridesmaid. Delightful comedy. I say to people, it's like last year we did Escanaba into Moonlight, which was about the hunting cabin and the craziness that men go through, and this is kind of the female version of that, for women who vow to be in each other's weddings, never realizing that those would be for some multiple weddings and go over a period of 20 years, and that they couldn't ever stop being bridesmaids. And it's a really fun comedy. Then for our holiday show this year, we have the traditional wonderful play, It's a Wonderful Life. Gretchen Powers is going to be directing that. That will be in December. That opens the 7th and goes through the 16th. Actually, there will be auditions for that. On October would be October 8th and 9th. So we have It's a Wonderful Life coming over the holidays, which is a great show to bring your family to, and a great way to get you in the Christmas spirit. After that, coming up at the end of February, we have 12 Angry Jurors, which is, if people remember the movie 12 Angry Men, this is a way for the playwright who has written both 12 Angry Men and 12 Angry Women, it's a way for you to have a cast that is not just all men or all women.
Okay.
And John Young is going to be directing that one. That is very powerful and a wonderfully written show. And then to end the season, we have a show we did 20 years ago in the library, Dearly Departed, about a family getting together for a funeral in the South and what goes on there. And it's just silliness. But we have a lot of opportunities for actors in this season. This is one season where we have a lot of larger cast shows. So we really need people to come down and take a chance. The first part is the hardest, but if you get a nice small little character role and you're rehearsing for 8 weeks with people who will help you through the whole thing, it's an experience unlike anything else you've ever had in your life. And if you've ever said to yourself, I would kind of like to do it. Don't wait for anything. Our kids' productions are over with for the year because we do those in the summer, but we have our haunted house coming up in October, and we have our Silver Foxes Halloween show coming up in October as well. So you can always go online to our website and take a look at our schedule. We have these, I'm holding up this brochure because we have them all over. So come down and get one.
What's your website?
It is WRC Theater with an RE.org.
Okay.
We also on Facebook. We have a Facebook page and keep that all pretty current too. So.
Okay. Well, Ellen, as you've had a distinguished career with the Wisconsin Rapids Community Theater. This is before you became the executive director. You were a volunteer. You were a performer. I know you've been doing a lot of performing. You were president of the board. So. I
was, I hate to admit this, but I was stage manager for the very first production of Glass Menagerie in 1975 when I was just a baby.
I was about to say, they let all the young people.
Yeah, they did. They didn't have anybody else. No, I tell this story a lot, but I had moved here from, my parents had moved up here from Milwaukee when I graduated from high school. I went to school in Eau Claire, left after a year, and came here. Didn't know anybody, but it was home, but it wasn't home. My mother saw an ad in the paper for a new theater group starting out, and she said, please go get out of the house. Go meet somebody. So I did. And I had done a little bit of high school theater, but not much. And so I came to the first auditions and met Kathy Miles and Bill Young and Pat Teese and Joe McCumber at the time, yes.
We went to see that production. I can always remember that.
and I'm sure the Wisconsin Rapids Community Theater will miss your contribution as well. So
I felt that my job at this particular point in time was to get our own facility, get us established in that facility, get the programs running that that we needed to support the organization, that give it a strong, firm foundation. And now it's time to take a look at the next phase. And I really feel it's time for someone else to come and take it to that phase. And I think there's going to be great things coming. I think there's probably going to be more youth involvement. I really see that need in the community for kids to be involved and to be doing more and growing. So I'm very excited about what the future is going to bring for the organization. And the gals that are coming in to take these two positions have that background and have the enthusiasm to make that happen. So I'm really excited about that.
That's wonderful.
Ellen Roeseler of Wisconsin Rapids Community Theater, thank you so much for this conversation. Greatly appreciate it. And so, on behalf of Carla Lenk, this is Jesse Austin. We're signing off with this edition of Community Business Matters. We hope to see you next month.